Alright, so this is like my 8th re-recording of this intro because OBS is being freaky. This is the visual novel Dies Irae. This game is more fucking complicated than Fate in terms of I had to pull up a wiki even to figure out how the fuck to play it, and I don't even know if this is the right version to be playing. But I'm just gonna assume the place I got it from was right in that this is just the whole thing. So the specific version I'm playing is Acta s Fabula HD. Dies Irae is a really, really weird visual novel. I just heard of it through the grapevine. Just people like, it's insane. I'm like, well, how insane could it be? Basic plot synopsis: super Nazis get reverse Isekai'd to modern Japan. At least, I think. I don't really know. I haven't made it far enough in. I have already done the prologue twice now. But I'll do it again. So, sorry you can't see my genuine first reactions, but same sort of comments. And so you're not really missing much. And so, let's get into the prologue of Dies Irae.
例えば、己の一生が全て定められていたとしたらどうだろう。人生におけるあらゆる選択、些細なものから大事なものまで選んでいるのではなく選ばされているとしたらどうだろう。無限の可能性などというものは幻想である。人はどれだけあがこうとも定められた道の上から降りられない。止めるものは止めるように、貧しき者は飢えるように、善人は善人として、悪人は悪人として、美しき者、醜き者、強き者、弱き者、幸福な者、不幸な者、そして勝つ者、負ける者、すべて初めからそうなるように、それ以外の者にはなれぬように定められていたとしたらどうだろう。ならばどのような咎人にも罪はなく、聖人にも徳などない。何事も己の意志で決めたのではなく、そうさせられているだけだとしたら、ただ流されているだけだとしたら、問うが諸君がそれでよしとするのか。持てる者らはただ与えられただけに過ぎない虚構の玉座に満足か。持たざる者らは一片の罪咎なしに虐げられて許せるか。いいな、断じていいな。それを知った上で笑える者など、生きるということの意味を忘れた劣等種、人とは呼べぬ奴隷だろう。気の抜けた勝利の酒ほど今日のそげるものはない。運命とやらに舐めさせられる敗北ほど耐え難い苦渋はない。このような屈辱を、このような茶番劇をただ繰り返し続けるのが人生だ。よし、私はあがき抜こう。どこまでもどこまでも道が終わるまで歩き続ける。はるか果てに至った場所で私は私だけのオペラを作る。ゆえに諸君らの力を借りたい。虐げられ踏みつぶされ、今まさに殺されんとしている君ら、ひととき同胞だった者たちよ。諸君らは敗北者として生まれ、敗北者として死に続ける。その運命を呪うのならば、私のもとに来るが100度繰り返しても勝てぬのならば、1000度繰り返し戦えばいい。1000度繰り返しても勝てぬのならば、万度繰り返し戦えばいい。未来永劫永遠 勝つまで戦い続けることを誓えばいいよ。それができるというならば、諸君らが術の一部となることを許可しよう。英語を勝つため。獣の盾が、その一本一本が諸君らの血肉で編まれることを祝福しよう。今はまだ私も君ら、そして彼も忌々しい輪の内ではあるものの、これから先ここでの選択が真に意味あるものであったと思えるように、いつかはきっとこの無限に続く輪を壊せるように。さあどうする諸君ら、この時代の敗北者たちよ。私に答えを聞かせてくれ。戦うか否か。
Well, sorry for being so silent, but I'd interrupt that man's delightful speech. I understand the point of logic they're coming from. Again, fucking nitpicky shit, but I just like to debate shit. Anyway, I understand where it's coming from. Fate inherently makes everything pointless, but knowing about fate doesn't change fate. In fact, it's fate you find out about fate. And so it's talking about violating fate itself. But how can you violate fate if fate is the thing that lets you disobey it? It's like basically just the plot to Donnie Dark. Great movie, by the way. But it's like, if fate is real, it changes nothing. Because, simply put, you're still fated to do everything. So that's why I think this speech is a little stupid, but it's the thought that counts. May 1st, 1945, Berlin, Germany. 12:27 a.m. I don't know why they put the time. Do I really need to know that? I guess it's important. The closing act of the Second World War was a manifestation of total war such as never been seen before. No, the term carnage would have been more appropriate. Outmanned in every way, Berlin stood in complete isolation, slipping towards the crevice of annihilation. The nearly 500,000 troops marching under the banner of the Red Army had already surrounded the capital, making escape virtually impossible. By the way, some context. I believe this is 7 days before VE Day, where it's like the Germans are officially defeated. And so like, this is basically Berlin is like the fucking... basically the final straw in Germany's defeat. That's why it's all like, holy shit, we're losing. Because the Russians just fucking trounced them. Guns roared, mingling with the screams of the dying in an incessant cacophony of terror as the city was razed and its people massacred. Bloodshed, carnage, all in order to eradicate the enemies of this world, be they young or old, man or woman. Justice, revenge, love, peace, oppression, liberty, equality. The slogan one chose to attach to the horror made little difference. The chaos engulfing the bloody streets demonstrated quite readily the atrocities that manifest when man is presented with a convenient higher cause to justify them with. Yes, for example, in this corner of the city, a blinding white flash followed by a roaring explosion. This latest bombardment sent even more soldiers, at least 3 who still recognized the humans, to their deaths, spreading their remains across the pavement. Letting out a loud curse, a man leapt out of the trenches with a Panzerfaust in hand. Protected by the covering fire of his allies' Schmeisers, he dashed over into effective fire range. He rose to his knees, took aim, and pulled the trigger, firing a heat warhead. The projectile shot forward, smashing right into the flank of the tank. Hold on. Heat... War... Ah, high explosive anti-tank. Upon further research, I have learned that a heat warhead is quite literally just a, like, anti-tank was like a explosive anti-tank. The more you know. Its armor dissolved in accordance with the Newman effect, and the tanks imploded in a torrent of liquefied metal, 1,000-degree flames. The man tossed aside his Panzerfaust and, backed by comrades from behind, started cleaning up his remaining foes with his Mauser. Such was war. It allowed no time for idle thoughts. Only slaughter, murder, and bloodshed. No man could keep his sanity in this hell, and so the perpetrators of this chaos howled in rage, never looking back, reveling in boundless insanity to keep their blood afire. Within this flaming wasteland of gunplay, soldiers single-mindedly continued their murderous dance as if it were some ungodly ritual. Of course, in reality, it was all but child's play. Soldiers against soldiers, rifles against pistols. No matter how fiercely they fought on this battlefield, the outcome of this war was already set in stone. The Third Reich had crumbled, the ambitions of its visionary leader lost in the flames of war. That's the thing, man. I had assumed, going into this game, I knew it was vaguely like Nazi-ish, okay? I'm like, what? No way. I had assumed that it was gonna be some shit like Tanya the Evil, where it's like, that's World War I, but come on. She's basically just a fascist. Or like, Girls Last Tour. It's not confirmed anything, but it's like, they're kind of goose-stepping in the intro and shit. And so I thought it'd be vaguely implied. Nope. They're part of the Third Reich. The term for basically the motherland. Nazi Germany. And fucking Hitler. Damn. Okay. What remained on that tattered battlefield was the shaken remnants of the defeated and the mob of the victors, flocking like vultures to the smell of decaying flesh. Certain death, inescapable defeat, any attempt to retaliate was merely a self-serving act of revenge, with no hope of salvation. The situation had surpassed anything that might elicit notions of despair, transforming into no more than an absurd comedy of sorts. And yet... Put some heart into that. His heart beat still, his hand gripped steel. He would not stop so long as there were enemies to kill. Still bugs me that this isn't like a poem, but I honestly do think that it was probably, it just got lost in translation, but couldn't tell ya. For it was his sworn duty, if there existed even one thing, anything at all, to justify this hellfire, be it sheer insanity, then that by itself would have been a blessing in disguise. Honor and glory, debased and disgraced, worth less than pig shit, and yet human life remained the cheapest currency. This reality. After wiping out all the leftover foes, regrouping with his comrades, it dawned upon the man that there are only 3 of them left standing, himself included. The company tasked with protecting this block had been completely annihilated. The situation was anything but promising, and still more enemies were on their way.
パンツァーファウストは先ほどあなたが使ったのが最後ですよ、総長。これはいよいよ終わりが見えてきましたね。俺たちの負けです。
The young man flashed a bitter smile as he handed over his schmauser to the elder. The older man glared at him, but offered no more in the way of approach. The war is lost. Indeed. That was the bitter truth of it. Berlin had fallen, the company massacred, and the remaining 3 soon to join them.
まあ、ここまで来たら別にそれもいいですけどね。ただ、最後は格好よく行きたいかな。どうせ逃げられやしないんだし。貴様、名前はヨアヒム・ブラウナーと言います。総長は俺はバルター・ゲルリッツ。ま、名前も知らないやつと死ぬのはお互いにごめんだからな。おい。
The Master Sergeant, Walter Gerlitz, directed his gaze at the final survivor of the company, a young boy who had thus far remained silent. Maybe I should do this with like a thick German. Oh. You know how you have like those mannerisms you do to like get into a certain accent, like Irish, yeah, tate. You know, I'm just a little Irish lad, a little more Scottish. Like you gotta kind of have like a phrase. For me, I can only do like a really gay German frat boy. You know, like a, oh yeah, let's party with our shirts off. The Master Sergeant, Walter Gelwitz, directed his gaze at the final survivor of the company. A young boy who had thus far remained silent. See, like, I can only do a really gay German. And I don't know why. I gotta work on that. Actually, I don't have to work on that. It's, honestly, I think it's better than normal German. The boy, eyes darting as he flailed to hide his shock, was even younger than Hoheim, barely in his teens. If Walter had a son, he might have been around the same age. Walter was about to ask what a mere child was doing there, but ultimately swallowed his words. It was a foolish question. The enemy would show no mercy to them, not even the children. The reason for it was very clear. They were the bitter enemies of the Red Army, the despised members of the Schutzwaffe. Even if they were to surrender, the Soviets would doubtlessly uninterested in taking them as prisoners. Yeah, honestly true. The Soviets did just fucking murder you. It's like, oh, I'm chill. They just fucking blast you. As such, fighting until their last breath was the only option for them. Walter was certain that Hoheim was ready to give his life for the fatherland. The boy, on the other hand. Burning. The burning CG, or I guess the CG of Burning Berlin. It's still insane how after many like searches, I still haven't figured out what the fuck CG means. I understand that it's supposed to be like computer graphic or some shit, but like, why the fuck do people use it in reference to visual novels so often? I don't know.
どうせあれだ。戦勝国様が偉そうに俺たちを悪魔だ非人道的だなどと裁くのさ。笑わせるぜ。
Hoheim shed his disaffected act, the bitter tone in his voice making his true position on the situation clear.
ドレスデンに母さんと妹がいたんだ。なのに爆撃でぶっ飛ばされて骨のかけらも見つからない。悪魔だって。一体何の冗談だ。俺たちは国のために戦ってただけなのに、それをあいつらクソ舐めやがって。
He would never surrender. Yet, even if he gave up his life in battle to come, he would never surrender. Yet, even if he gave his life in the battle to come, the outcome of the war had already been decided. Nothing could change that, least of all, himself. With this defeat, their fatherland and their descendants would. A single soldier was powerless to alter the greater current of war. A single soldier was powerless to alter the great current of war. Hoheim tried to express his dissatisfaction with reality as best he could, while Marco silently listened. Several rifle shots echoed to their left just then. Walter and Marco just barely managed to duck into cover, but Hoheim was not so fortunate. His head was shot clean off by the first wave, followed by an entire volley of bullets being unloaded into his chest. I would say excessive, but honestly, that is a certified Russian moment. Pelted by machine gun fire, Joachim's body contorted in a queer manner, almost reminiscent of some form of dance, before finally hitting the ground. An anticlimactic finale indeed for the youth who had only moments prior expressed his desire to fight to the bitter end. But such was the reality of the situation, the reality of war. There are no heroes here, no messiahs or miracles to save them, only men dying like insects. And should one allow his soul to be overcome by wrath or despair when confronted with this knowledge, it would serve to only invite the jaws of death to consume him next. The chaos of war would not tolerate idle thoughts. Knowledge of one's duty was all that was necessary.
シュミット！聞こえるか、シュミット！
As Walter rolled into the safety of a ruined building, he shouted the name of his lone surviving comrade with all the strength he could muster. And instead of words, the sole reply received was yet another flash, followed by an fiery explosion. The upper half of the young boy's body was flung at Walter's feet. The cramped alleyway was heavy with the stench of blood and scorched entrails. Walter powerfully dropped to his knees in the vast sea of blood.
村長すみません僕はお宅に立てませんでした
Marco smiled, even as the last embers of his life faded away. It was unbelievable someone could still form words in a state such as this. Walter took the boy's hand.
死にたくないですここで死んだら村長教えてください僕たちは悪魔エルリンはあいつ
喋るな、シュミット！
As the gunfire continued, a brand new tank rolled onto the battlefield. Marco Schmidt was beyond help. Not even God could save him now. And so, Walter's rightful place now was on the battlefield, his hand clenching a gun and not the hand of a dying soldier. His ears lent not to the naive parting remarks of the boy, but to the straining to hear the breath of his enemy. He knew that better than anyone, and yet,
僕たちは追い込みしたのでしょうだから目に合うのでしょうか人を殺すセンスが良くないものだというのは分かります僕たちは
Joachim, Walter, and so many other German soldiers just like them had done nothing more than take up arms to protect their fatherland and loved ones. Was that truly a sin? Surrounded by the flames of dying capital, the young boy just spoke in mere disjointed fragments, voicing a question Walter himself would have loved to pass, posed to the heavens alone. So that's one thing that's brought up in the prologue a lot, is, but we're just chill guys though. Like, come on. And I have mixed feelings about it. On the one hand, I like to play devil's advocate, and I understand there is a line of logic in that. Even among the most psycho and heinous factions, there's a certain mob mentality and forced coercion. Guilt by association is a very loose thing, and often, like even in Germany, yeah, there were just civilians, just people that going with the mob mentality. That's a whole fucking song and dance. If it's going that route, and okay, fine. Interesting enough. But it's also a very treacherous line, because saying, a Nazi soldier saying, I did nothing wrong, could very obviously be construed as sympathy. So, that's one of the reasons why I'm really curious to play more, is to see, is it really just Nazi sympathies, or is it something more fleshed out? Yet, after mere seconds of doubt, Walter answered curtly.
戦争に負けることが悪になるのだ。
Such was the way of the world, a cruel, bitter truth. Walter found himself a growing resentment for the Lord.
それなら次は勝ちたい。
Marco Schmidt then quietly passed away in Walter's arms, the man gazing up at the heavens. The young soldier's smile in death, albeit tainted with blood and mud, still held traces of boyhood.
シュミット、ブラウンド。
A bitter smile mirroring Marco's crept onto Walter's face.
次は勝とう。次で勝てなければ次の次で。それでもダメならまたその次で。100万回も繰り返せばこんな結末をひっくり返せるかもしれない。
Sorry. His words might have seemed the ramblings of a lunatic beset by the armies of death, but they were more than that. Walter cocked his Schmeiser, confirmed it was loaded, then charged out of the... Yeah, this is crazy. I don't know. There's something so lip flashy about a Japanese man screaming Dies Irae. Like, damn. Technically, it's not. Again, I like to play devil's advocate. Technically, it's not like... It is just a German phrase like, all hail, but it's a Nazi hail. He unconsciously let out a battle cry loud enough that it threatened to rend his throat. Would he end up gunned down like Joachim, or share the same fate as Marco? It hardly mattered anymore. Either way, he'd merely die a miserable death befitting this miserable war. His mind was occupied by such despaired thoughts. In no way could he have predicted what was to come next.
天に増します我らの父よ。願わくは皆の尊まれんことを。彼らに永遠の安息を与え。絶えざる光もて照らしたまえ。
It was the soldier's intuition that drove Walter to reflexively take shelter. His vision was drowned by a blinding white light, an explosion so fierce it dwarfed all previous bombardments, an explosion that seemed to rip apart the very heavens. Walter realized this explosion was far beyond any level of weapon that could have possibly been employed in urban warfare. What in the world had happened? The city he had literally staked his life to protect had been reduced to a charred wasteland. Although it took quite a while for Walter to regain his sight and hearing, there was still not enough time for him to make sense of the situation. Part of him wondered if it was all a sick joke. Only one thing was clear. Both his allies' corpses and the encroaching enemy troops had been annihilated. No bombing raid could have inflicted such immense damage. And although Walter had managed to survive the attack itself, his resulting wounds were deep. Pieces of steel and concrete blasted in his direction by the explosion had pierced his back and flank. The hand that once held his Schmeiser was blown off from the elbow. It wasn't even worth the effort to attempt to discern the number of more minor injuries. What is a Schmeiser? Ah! Okay. So, a Schmeiser is the little, like, MP50s that the Nazis had. I'll put an image of it on screen. His incessant bloody vomit told him that he was also suffered from severe internal damage. He would not make it. Voice acting is weirdly good. Walter swore blindly, no longer certain of the target of his indignation. Just then, the voice from before rang out again.
我が祈りを聞きたまえ。生きとし生けるもの、すべては主に帰せん。我が魂よ、再び安らぐがよい。主は報いてくださるがゆえに。
I wonder how they converted this. Did it go from Japanese to English, then English to Latin? Or did it go Japanese to Latin, then Latin to English? I feel like English to Latin. I still find it funny how they fucking put up the Latin and they're like, oh yeah, just put the English over the top. It was a requiem offered up to fallen soldiers. One sung in a beautiful voice. Not even a prestigious church choir could produce a melody quite like... Not even a prestigious church choir could produce a melody quite this dignified. Yet, at the same time, the scorn seeping into the voice was all too evident. Only upon the eve of the apocalypse itself could such a voice be conceived as an angel's. It sung of the deed with It sung of the dead with scorn, It sung of the dead with scorn, ridicule, and mockery, deriving the utmost pleasure in trampling upon every last remnant of dignity they possessed. The voice of a destroyer intoxicated by mayhem. This was the product of a black mind possessed solely by an inhuman malice.
彼らに永遠の安息を与え、絶えざる光もて照らしたまえ。
And so, stepping on the vast expanse of the debris, the destroyer appeared, that demonic requiem at his lips. Is a young boy lacking in years, even in comparison to Marco, with a face so delicate that a careless glance could easily mistake his feature for those of the girls. A single look of the boy was enough to give Walter chills. His teeth began to chatter. Can I see his teaching? It kind of reminds me like this digitals of like some D-Man Gray type shit. I didn't notice this till now, and I've played this twice. That's so fucking stupid. He just has a big ass iron cross hanging from his eye patch. Fucking like Nazi skull. The fucking, that must be so heavy. Oh, and it's like clattering against his teeth. Ugh. Fucking stupid red armband that they just put some weird ass symbol on because like, maybe we shouldn't put a swastika. Although he had lost a considerable amount of blood, his vision had grown hazy. The reason behind the freezing chill at his back lay elsewhere. The sheer enmity and bane radiating from the boy's visage indeed contributed to that. But to Walter, the most dreadful thing was the fact that he knew that face. There lived no man who fought on the Eastern Front and knew not of this boy. A beast possessed by an insatiable hunger, his aberrant mind ruled by inhuman madness. His single eye gleamed, silver locks swaying. He gripped a pair of guns, each engraved with a wolf's angel, the rune sign of the wolf. There's no doubt. It was the face Walter could never forget. The face of a boy who had supposedly died 3 years ago. Eastern Front Assault Corps Special Unit Leader SS Major Wolfgang Streiber. Oh my god, he's a part of the SS? Those guys were like the real Nazis. Holy shit. Yeah, the SS were like fucking... Those were the guys who are like, yeah, get in the gas chamber, little bro. I'm editing that. But, yeah, those guys were like actually insane. Holy fuck. An unchained beast that slaughtered both friend and foe. The ashen demon that had supposedly met his end during a purge. How could he be standing here?
ああ、誰かと思えばバルター・ゲルリッツ総長かい？アインザッツグルペンじゃ迷惑かけたね。 元気かい？
Hardly the words one would offer a dying comrade, especially one whose death was most likely caused by Striber himself. The boy, flashing an innocently devilish smile in front of Walter, is no doubt the very same person he remembered. And yet, his armband bore not one of the swastika, but of a different symbol altogether, almost as if he were no comrade at all. Like I said, really putting it bluntly. You know what, I guess I can respect not beating around the bush.
あなたはなぜここに？
なぜも何も僕も君も軍人だろ。戦って殺すのが商売なんじゃないのかな。
The boy playfully surveyed the landscape. It was proof enough of his statement, and what followed was nothing short of unnatural. Something akin to opaque vapor erupted in their vicinity, like a fog or a haze. Get to see, oh, hey guy. Get to see the little faces of the damned. At the same time, Walter's senses were assaulted by a dreadful moaning. These were the cursed cries of the fallen, fated to suffer and lament until the very end of time. This endless chorus of lamentation caused even the seething air of the battlefield to cool. These were the spirits of the dead. Walter felt like he could almost make out the faces of Marco and Boheme among the swirling masses, as well as the destination towards which they were spiraling. CG view. It was fucking... Like, I guess as he's scrolling, it just does look like fucking mind powers. Like he's about to fucking beam you up. Straight in the Striber's Topenkopf eye patch. He was devouring the very souls he had slain. Confronted with such a repulsive, unworldly spectacle, Walter could not determine whether he should give himself over to rage, or simply weep. He longed for the repose of insanity.
さて、それじゃあ総長、僕はもう行かないといけないんだけど、君はどうする？
Striber, seemingly done with his meal, wearily turned his neck to Walter. He is breathing his last, not in any condition to spill blood like a soldier
殺し
should.
足りなくはないのかい？今さら連中の100や1000を殺したところで何も変わりやしないけどね。でもだからって何もせずに黙ってる必要なんかどこにもない。見なよこのベルリンを。全くひどいありさまじゃないか。こんなものが僕らの求めた千年帝国の終わりだなんて誰が納得するって言うんだよ。
Content.
できないよね。
Walter threw a piercing glance at the smiling boy. Indeed, no one in their right mind would be content with such an outcome. He had friends to call his own, a family to go home to, a woman to love. He cherished this country. All that became tainted due to Germany's defeat, dishonor that no centuries could wash clean. That was...
許せないよね。薄汚い劣等ごときが我が物顔で帝都を蹂躙するなんて。女や子供や年寄りを犯して殺して吊るすなんてさ。
Again, I've already said my 2 cents on the Nazi sympathism shit. Potential Nazi sympathism shit. This concerns me just because obviously they don't hold their punches, but with visual novels, it can be a fucking nightmare. And so that's why I'm like, oh no.
総長、忠勇なるドイツ軍人バルター・ゲルリッツ総長殿、君の気持ちを聞かせてくれ。君は一体どうしたい？
I love this voice actor, actually. Wow. The amount of blood leaking forth from Walter's mouth made speech difficult, but his feelings were set. Joachim, who vowed to fight till the bitter end. Marco, who wished for victory. Their feelings, as well as his own. The boy standing before him is unmistakably from that of the fold of the devil. But such things mattered little at that point. What he wanted was... victory, honor, and glory for the fatherland. To bring peace for friends and family that had fallen. To bring prosperity for generations yet unborn. And above all else, for his very own soul.
ジーク入る。そうさ総長、素晴らしいよその息だ。君のような勇者にこそあの方の血肉となる資格がある。
Like I said, his fucking staunch Isekai'd always fucking knocks me out.
戦争は終わらない。僕たちが終わらせない。何度でも続けて
Grant us victory.
掴むまで共に行こうじゃないか。無限に続く戦場へ。
We shall claim victory in the next war, if not in the one after that. Hundreds and thousands and millions of battles repeating over and over again till this outcome can finally be toppled. Stryber thrust his Mauser in Walter's direction as the last light of the man's soul began to
彼
fade.
らに永遠の安息を与え、絶えざる光もて照らしたまえ。
His requiem was one of scorn for the fallen, pregnant with malicious intent. And yet, Walter thought it beautiful, like the song of an angel. It was then he finally realized that this was the apocalypse, that he would soon join the ranks of those marching to destroy the world. He had become a strand of the beast's mane, one of many in his legion. The boy gazed to the heavens and offered up a splitting cackle, his silver hair dancing. The soul of Walter Gerlitz was stuck in the boy's blood-crazed eye and vanished. That's one thing. I really love how fucking verbose this section is. It tones it down a bit after this, but, like, you know what? I can respect the commitment to the fact that the Nazis would absolutely be fucking weird-ass, verbose motherfuckers. And, I don't know, a lot of words were like, huh, that's some good wording. At the same time, in another place, a new nightmare was unfolding. An entire battalion of at least a dozen tanks had failed to bring down a single man. No, an entire battalion of tanks were being destroyed by a single man. In the center of the supernatural maelstrom stood a somber specimen of a man, darker than the blackest of nights. Beneath his neatly worn uniform stretched a body of steel trained to the utmost limit. A perfect fusion of the sort of artistry found in the great sculptures of antiquity and raw martial prowess. Yeah, he really does have just the fucking Nazi hat with the skull crossbones and the SS. He kind of reminds me of Mundane Man from Eminence and Shadow. Honestly, it kind of does give off that vibe, even with his personality. Just, oh, it's just whenever I see him, I just roll my eyes. The man wielded nothing, not even a short blade. Oh yeah. He fought with his fists alone. But they were all that he needed to sunder the armor of a tank, as if it were nothing more than scrap paper. Needless to say, no mere man could hope to imitate this display. Indeed, he was a monster, or if not, a weapon taking human form, a fortress upon the battlefield. Either way, the Soviet forces were dealing with an inhuman soldier, a being exceeding human boundaries. Furthermore, the towering beast of a man had yet to so much attempt to evade any of the artillery fire being leveled upon him. Even after being pelted by countless bullets and tank shells, his body remained unscathed. However, that was only natural. For everyone knew this man, his strength, and his name. Knew that he was a hero who had died a year before, and what is dead could not be killed. The man let out a deep breath. His overflowing will melted with the surrounding rubble into toxic waste, blasting it afar with a gust of burning wind. His tightened muscles expanded to their extremes, as if longing for release. A hammer of steel. Motherfucker, that's the Soviets thing, man. You're not supposed to be a hammer and steel. There existed nothing in this universe that could withstand the blow he was preparing to unleash. The energies gathering in his fist gave birth to refraction, causing the very visage of the man to distort. But as the man finished swelling up with energy and was about to unleash destruction, his fierce concentration suddenly let up just as he was about to reach critical mass, almost as if something had ruined his mood. Perhaps he thought the panicking soldiers, having lost their morale, were not even worth killing. Then, had those soldiers miraculously escaped the jaws of death? Of course not.
この世で狩りに勝る楽しみなどない。
The song of the cruel huntress echoed across the night. A scorching wave of pure flame passed by the man, devouring their soldiers, burning them to cinders. This was clearly no ordinary weapon. Its destructive force far exceeded the power of Molotov cocktails or tank fire. It is more akin to a pulse of concentrated energy from a nuclear blast, as impossible as it seemed, than any urban weapon. You know what? Yeah, I'll say it. I don't think this hoe can sustain an entire nuclear blast worth of energy. Like, come on. Otherworldly screams of pure agony reverberated throughout the war-torn battlefield, now engulfed by a sea of flames. The soldiers, assailed by the instantaneous burst of fire, had evaporated without a trace. But the hate-filled screams of their souls rang out in the night. This was the same phenomenon that Stryver had conjured up in just a moment earlier.
脆い。そして弱すぎる。所詮は劣等の魂だったか。空気も大きい。
How fast, Jack? She kind of... Oh, I never noticed the ponytail. Also, I kind of think I'd like her better from the ponytail. She kind of reminds me of Gebura. I will say, she doesn't have red hair, but, the chick from Hotel Moscow and Black Lagoon, that's who she really reminds me of, especially with the scar, and, like, the cigarette, and the fact that they're, like, both European. I don't know, I get hardcore, yeah, balalaika. It was uncertain for how long the woman had been standing back to back with the somber man. Her tone was grim and bereft of joy, her visage deep crimson, her swaying hair the color of fresh blood and hellfire. She would possess a certain calculating beauty were it not for the gruesome burn marks covering the left half of her face. As such, her visage evoked only a grim awe, born from a marriage of the fair and the pungent. Don't let them put you down. Honestly, it doesn't look that bad. Well, I don't know. I think she's still fucking batty as hell. As a fellow Hanako enjoyer, I can say the burn marks detract nothing.
それで私に何か不満があるのかい？貴様、いかにも気に入らないという様子だ。
Gracefully letting forth a puff of cigar smoke, the woman posed a question to the man at her back. Motherfucker, you say cigar? That is not a cigar. That shit, I guess maybe cigars can be a title. I think it was cigar. I think it was like a fucking fat ass penguin cigar. And I'm pretty sure Bala Laika also fucking was smoking on that big ass cigars. No answer came.
まあいい。殺しすぎるシュライバーと合わせればちょうど均衡が取れよう。無人の矜持だかなんだか知らん。せいぜい大事にするがいい。ここは奴らにうまく攻め落としてもらう必要がある。故に殺しすぎるのも殺さなさすぎるのも等しく罪だということを自覚しているなら何も言わん。それとも貴様、一度タガが外れれば皆殺しにしてしまいかねないから抑えている。であるな。私も同じ心境だ。
No one could be blamed for mistaking the Crimson Moon's words for those of a lunatic. No sane person would speak as if they are capable of destroying the entire Red Army surrounding Berlin on a whim.
宣告、相当閣下が行かれる。
That, honestly, I will put up a thing confirming or denying the fact that Hitler died on May 1st.
無双家の長官殿も小うるさい宣伝屋もいずれ後を追うだろう。そして大量の市民と同胞を道連れにこの程度は陥落する。犠牲としては性質創造を試みるのになるほど適当な触媒だろう。敵を幾百万捧げたところで守るべき民、愛すべきと彼ら10人の方が命は重い。それが人間というものだ。さしずめ貴様はその理屈に苦しんでいるというところ結構なことだ。苦悩もまた逃げになる。
Huh. Yeah. I don't... That's one thing. What does the Ark of the Covenant and Nazis have to do with each other? I thought the Ark of the Covenant was supposed to be like a religious artifact. Did Nazis actually try and seek that? Because I know in like fucking Indiana Jones, like the Nazis were also fighting over the Ark of the Covenant. Is that like a real thing? I'll put it up on screen if so.
Zami.
The man finally spoke.
Mercurius.
何？貴様。あれに何か用があると。
Silence again. The man failed to answer. The woman narrowed her eyes, her gaze heavy with suspicion, before letting loose an exasperated sigh.
やれやれ。まただんまりか。寡黙すぎる男というのも考え物だな。まさかあれと戦おうなどと考えているわけでもあるまい。そして仮にそうだとしたらくだらんよ。バカバカしいからやめておけと言ってやる。あれは絶対に殺せない。いずれにせよあれは我々の上官であり狩猟殿の盟友だ。貴様が範囲を持つというのならはっきり言って捨ておけん。
俺にそんなつもりはない。
だろう。貴様の硬すぎる頭の中にそんな計算などあってたまるか。故に私はさっきの質問に答えている。
lift her head to look up at the sky.
我らが黒煙卓の指導者お二人は兄弟のごとく仲が良い。であれば必然あれのいる場所は決定している。見るがいい。
Meanwhile, in the Berlin sky, tainted by blood and fire, taking form through the carnage of the capital, was a tremendous swastika. You're telling me that they created a big... Okay. I want you to imagine this, okay? Close your eyes, picture in your head. Imagine the city of Berlin. They leveled it and started a fire in a big swastika shape, and a big tower was left directly in the middle of the swastika for the two leaders of the round table to be. A man stood atop the towering spire with some... God, that's so stupid.
総員慶中、我らが主、偉大なるハガルの君の恩前である。そのお言葉、目視、刮目して拝聴せよ。
Her booming voice echoed in the ears of all living men in the city as Berlin, as if some... Her booming voice echoed in the ears of all living men in the city of Berlin, as if through some sort of sorcery. At that very moment, all soldiers ceased their fighting. All children dried their tears, and all elders stopped their flight. Each and every soul in the city gazed up to the sky as if possessed. Its deep cacophony was tainted by the blood and fire of the city below, boiling as if some sort of cauldron. The Berlin Himmel. On the very day the 1,000-year Reich crumbled to dust, a devil of blinding light descended from the heavens. Yay! Hitler 2.0! I think. Oh, I think that's a sigil that was inscribed at the beginning. What? You have fucking this little guy over here, this silly goober. Why does he only have one arm? I just noticed that. I don't know. But genuinely, I think that's fucking Hitler 2.0. He died. Hitler died just now. This guy just descends. Oh. His locks, like a flowing mane, golden in color. His regal gaze, equally gold. Also, shouldn't your eyes be blue, dog? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. That one was crazy. I'm sorry. There's a gold of splendor, a brilliance surpassing creation itself, beauty mingling with heavy solemnity, yet at the same time beastly in hue, a being that should not exist in the realm of man, the harbinger of beguiling light. At his side, a man with features vague and twisting as the darkness of shadows. He was garbed in the plain robes of a hermit, with the ambiguous features that made it impossible to discern his age. The yin to his yang, the two of them existed on a level far removed from any being gazing up at them. They were the monsters whom even the monsters feared. Number 1 and 13 of the Longinus Drenzen orders, Obsidian Round Table. Its leader and vice commander.
Kera.
Gazing down at Berlin, no, the entire world, the man of gold began his
己
speech.
の一生が全て定められていたとしたら何とする。勝者は勝者、敗者は敗者になるべくして生まれ、どのような経緯をたどろうとその結末へと帰結する。この世界の仕組みとやらがそのようになっていたとしたら何とする。ならばどのような努力もどのような怠慢も祈りも願いも意味はない。神の恵みもそして裁きも全てそうなるように定められているだけだとしたら、ケラ悪魔の子、世界の敵として滅ぼされんとしている者たちは 一辺の罪とがなしに侵され奪われ踏みにじられているに過ぎない。
I've already given my 2 cents about the whole fate and being unfair thing.
この忌むべき月頭の輪の中。
Okay, my other gripe with this section. The word ghetto is so targeted here. Hold on. I have to be mistaken. Ghetto definition. Yeah, the Jewish quarter in a city. The word ghetto quite literally refers to the fucking, like, slums the Nazis put Jewish people in. That's why using the word ghetto in this term is, in this context, is insane. Like, I understand vocabulary-wise. I'm hoping it wasn't, like that. But that's still insane.
死すらもまた解放ではない。英語そこに至れば回帰をなし再び始まりに戻るのみ。そしてケイラの始まりとは故にこの後も無限に苦しみ無限に殺され続けるだろう。そのように生まれた以上そのようになるしかない。それを口惜しいと思うか否か覆したいと思うか否か。
The man's grim words reached every soul residing in Berlin. Nothing awaits you but eternal suffering, eternal defeat. The people of Berlin could not deny his claims. The Golden Beast proclamation rang out with the urgency of the trumpet of the final judgment. This was a man possessed of supernatural charisma, utilizing extreme conditions in order to manipulate the will of others. It was hardly a novel trick in and of itself, but the sheer scale of the man's performance here warranted deeper scrutiny. Wait, is this supposed to be an allusion to Hitler? Like, that wasn't that Hitler's whole thing. He was really charismatic, and so he took advantage of desperate Germany to fucking radicalize everything. Huh. See, I'm just trying to figure out how this game stands. Is this game a deep and layered fucking subtext of Nazis? Or is it just Nazis are cool as fuck, man? I can't tell. His voice possessed a magical quality, capable of penetrating the very heart of all those who heard it. The best comparison were to the cries of dragons from the Age of Legends. A juggernaut of a voice that would not fail to ensnare any mortal. And a being that possessed it was certainly no mortal. The Golden Beast, the Black Prince, the harbinger of beguiling light, the monarch of destruction. Every word that passed forth from his lips was saturated in magic. He gave the command. If you wish to overcome your miserable lot in life, then offer your very soul. Again with the ghetto. If you long to wash away the stigma of the defeated, take the pen and sign the pact of blood. It's a temptation of the devil himself. The Golden Monarch looked down upon lesser beings crawling upon the earth and posed a question to them. The answer was all too evident. Grant us victory. Grant us victory. Sieg Heil Victoria. I gotta commit that. Please don't clip that. A deep fissure ran across the man's perfectly beautiful face. To conjure the words of Dr. Faust, his features portrayed the uncanny equilibrium of of a genuine smile and grotesque sneer. Mephistopheles, the harbinger of beguiling light, the name of the wicked fiend that could grant a man's any wish in exchange for his living soul. See, and again, with the fucking duality and advantage, the Nazis' whole thing was steeping everything they did in fucking, like, mysticism. Their whole thing was to fucking aura farm. By definition, that's the Nazis' whole thing. If just the soldiers aura farmed in front of kids, then they would fucking be like, oh, I guess they're chill. And so using weird, like, using mysticisms and illusions like Faust and Mephistopheles has that fucking Nazi vibe to it. This is insane first video. What the fuck am I doing? No, this is peak. This is just... Again, I'm just really interested to see how this is going to shake out.
ならば我がレギオンに加わるがいい。
The moment those ponderous words left his lips, the unthinkable happened. All men with guns in hand took them to their mouths. All those wielding blades thrust them deep into their own chests. Those without armaments plunged themselves in the hellfire still raging around them. Guns roared, steel drank blood, men plunged their deaths, suicide unfolded on every street corner. Hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands rushed their deaths with abnormal haste, their souls being absorbed into the Golden Monarch. It was an insatiable holocaust engulfing the entire capital. Again, word choice. Using the word holocaust in this fucking context is insane. This could not have been the first time. He had consumed countless souls in the past. Was this then the final ritual necessary to complete his task? A grand sacrificial altar, stained by the blood of soldiers and countrymen who had looked up to him as a savior, begging for salvation. In all its grimness, all its cruelty, all its terror, it was...
美しい。まさに悲劇。あなたをしたい、あなたが守るべき者たちがあなたのせいで死んでいる。あなたはそれを嘆き、喜び、自らの力へと変えるだろう。我が友、私がこの滑稽な人生でただ一人畏敬の念を抱いた獣ども。あなたはこれから何をなす？
The shade of a man who had remained silent until now finally spoke.
あなたは一体何を求める？
愚問だな。法則の破壊と超越。私に道を示したのは K だろ。もっとも他に個人的興味がないでもないが。
それは一体？
法則を作ったもの。
なるほど。すなわち
God, or perhaps the devil. The shade chuckled, its lips widening into a smile.
私は優秀な生徒を得て幸せだ。エイビヒカイトを正しく理解しているのはやはり現状あなただけか。いや素晴らしい。この瞬間だけは何度経験しても飽きが来ない。それだけに正直名残惜しくもありますが。
行くのか、カール。
ええ、その名も置いていきましょう。いずれ必ず会えるはず。半世紀もすれば東方のシャンバラが完成する。そこに私の代理を用意するゆえ、下僕たちの遊び相手にでもすればよろしい。今回の契約であなたの魂は他に比類なき強度を得た。性質創造の思考も果たした以上、怒りの日までこちらにとどまる理由はありますまい。クリストフのこともある。万全を期すために幾人かあちらに連れて行ってはいかがです？
無論元よりそのつもりだ。ザミエル、シュライバー、ベルリッヒンゲン。
結構それは隙のない人選だ。というよりあの3人以外では今のあなたに随伴することなどかなわぬか。
The two men exchanged words in a casual tone. perhaps reminiscent of two chess players contemplating their moves, even as scenery from hell spread out beneath them. It was apparent why the two of them would have been seen as brothers. They shared a certain air of resigned enlightenment, as if they presided from lofty heights lesser beings could not dream of reaching. No tragedy, no comedy, no creation under the sun would move them. Their laughter was no mere sneer. Their laughter was no mere sneer, nor their actions merely the result of frozen heart. Rather, they were worn down by time itself, imbued with the uncanny aura of an ancient sage. Gazing up at the two of them, roughly 10 others in a military uniform, standing completely unscathed within the decaying capital of agony that was Berlin. They were the fangs and claws of their golden master, and among them, the three mentioned earlier surpassed even the rest. The Crimson Woman had tears of joy trickling down her face. In response to the honor of being chosen by her golden commander, her loyalty grew fiercer than ever. The silver-haired boy responded with a sulk, lamenting the temporary end of his carnage. For a moment, however, he vowed to acquiesce. The somber giant stood silent, seemingly oblivious to all but the shade he fixed his gaze upon. Worry not, your wish will be granted soon enough. I would appreciate it if you were not to glare at me quite so forcefully. The spectre of a man grinned, amused by the giant's electrifying gaze, before turning his attention to the golden brother once more.
ではまたいずれ、獣殿。再び我らがまみえる時こそ、互いの目的が成就すると祈りましょう。
いいな。成就させると誓うのだ。傍観するだけでは何もつかめん。K の悪い癖だな、カール。
確かに。であれば、ここに誓いましょうか。
The Totenkopf Empire that had waged war against the world had finally met its end. Whether it be true or not, it is oft-repeated anecdote that Nazi Germany, in possession of some of the world's most advanced technology during this time period, had dabbled in obscene rituals beyond the scenes in the pursuit of the secrets of black magic. What became of the demons brought forth by these experiments and all their diabolic relics, their whereabouts remain unknown, assuming they ever truly existed to begin with. So I'm assuming the Nazis had demon relics, and that's how they came about. And so, 6 long decades came and went. My god, this really is November 29, 2006. Mount Fuji, Akogara, Sea of Trees. 3:27 a.m. Again with the time. The entire area was engulfed by crimson flames. A torrent of sheer energy had emerged from a nearby cave, mowing down trees and setting them ablaze. This place was a crevice in the fabric of space, a meeting point for the ley lines which spread across Earth like a net. A lone man emerged from the cave. He wore a rosary and a cassock, signaling his status as a holy member of the cloth. Indeed, the warm smile playing across his lips was that one which would expect it from a man of God. Yet, a man appearing in a place like this in the dead of night, emerging alongside an inferno. Truly? Yet, could a man appearing in a place like this at the dead of night, emerging alongside an inferno, truly be a servant of the divine? And kneeling before him in servitude was a young woman with jet black hair. Her skin color and features clearly identified her as a native of this land. She spoke reverently, her face expressionless as that of a statue.
ご無礼をお許しください。生産杯芸官、バレリア・トリファ狩猟代行。あなたをここへお呼びしたのは、この私の意向です。自己紹介は必要ですか？
いいえ。レオンハルト、あなたのことは覚えていますよ。 キルヒアイゼン教の後を継がれた時はまだほんの子供でしたが、美しくそして強くなられましたね。
The tough-ass animated CG with whoever the fuck these people are.
恐縮です。
Unpleasant mourning could be heard echoing throughout the area. They were likely the souls of the men and women that had taken their lives within this forest. The young one paid them no heed even as they continued to make their presence known. The priest, in contrast, inhaled them all with infection, making them known. A blasphemous scene, an affront to all that was just, was identical to the events of Berlin 61 years prior. Was this perhaps a continuation of what had begun that night? A priest of a voice that sang each word, before him a young woman offering nothing but the humblest of words. They exchanged a few greetings, but nothing of note. Trifles such as how the priest had traveled from the other side of the earth by traversing its ley lines. Trifles such as how the priest had traveled from the other side of the earth by traversing its ley lines. How the girl had altered his original path in order to lead him here. Apologies and explanations for her impudent action, as well as for the reason why the priest could not possibly journey there at the present time. All those were secondary importance, unnecessary to discuss here. There is but one thing of value.
ではこれより共に戦の続きを始めましょうか。
That one crucial point, and that alone, that they were preparing to finally unveil to the world the supreme performance they had spent so many moons preparing. Now then, may the curtains of the grand Gunoil rise. Slaughter, butcher, massacre, till no more is left. Violate, conquer, and consecrate. Let there be victory. Let there be conquest. And thus...
神、これを欲したもん。忠誠こそ我が名誉。
They'd repeat their struggle as many times as necessary. They would continue fighting to the very limits of time itself. They had sworn to do so, and they were bound to carry out this task. The young woman's recital of the oath of the Holy Crusade was met by the priest's own blessings. And so, on that night, in that forest, the legion that had vowed to destroy the world began to stir, unbeknownst to any. The burning Nazis, the burning swastika. Man. And then brings you to the title screen. I gotta say, that intro was honestly tough as fuck. That I was not expecting. Such a nice intro and honestly kind of a banger song. I'm not even gonna get into what comes after this. We can just get into that. That was the very long, insane prologue to this game. I left it with more questions, and you know, I thought it would answer it, but it left me wanting to know what their true intent for this game is. I genuinely have no idea. I have none. This game genuinely could be peak, or it could be miserable dog shit. Either way, I know I'm gonna have a lot of fun playing that.